Welcome to the Maximum Libertarian podcast. I hope myself and my guests can effectively explain why individual liberties are essential to building a stronger community and supporting and helping the growth of the Libertarian Party. So please go over to MaximumLibertarian.com to discover all the ways you can help grow this podcast. Now on with the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Maximum Libertarian podcast from the Roanoke Valley Libertarian here in beautiful Commonwealth of Virginia. Today, we are joined with Dr. Nelva Lee, who she is, as you described, a serial entrepreneur, correct?
Correct.
And you are running for the Georgia State School Superintendent. We're going to be going over your plans, your ideas, and things to that nature, and see how it benefits, because what I've looked at, a lot of your ideas and platform blend into the Libertarian Party, or maybe not into the party, but Libertarians in Georgia might go, hey, I like this individual over this individual. So if you can, real quick, just go give us a brief description about yourself and what made you want to seek this position.
Got it. So I am, as you mentioned, Dr. Nelva Lee. I am running because I'm very passionate about the state of our students here in Georgia. We are currently ranked 38th out of 50. And that's a decline under the current superintendent of schools. 70% of our fourth graders are not proficient in reading, and 76% of our eighth graders are not proficient in math. And these are both declines under the current superintendent, who's been in office 11 going on 12 years. That's an entire grade, school time for most children, right? From K to 12. And they've had nothing but decline. So I'm coming in to bring solutions and hopefully positive results to our students here in the state of Georgia. And
all right.
I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. I was Governor Kemp appointed board member to the Department of Community Health. I was CEO of a vocational school for over 20 years. And prior to that, and actually in between that, I've had 30 years of experience in healthcare administration. So working everywhere from the Grady Health System to nursing homes, you name it.
Right. Well, the one thing that really has struck me, and we won't focus on it just yet, but is concrete built, the cryptocurrency and things to that nature. I heard you in another interview you were doing, and that made my ears peak up more. It was like, oh, this is a crazy idea, and I thought that was a great idea. You know what you're doing. We'll get on with what you're doing right now. Let's see. You've emphasized education as the great equalizer. What specific changes would you prioritize in Georgia to make them equitable for students from diverse backgrounds?
Definitely. So there are two major initiatives that I would like to push forward. The first is school choice. And we see that in states that have true school choice, such as Florida, where the money follows the student, students' outcomes are much better. Why? Because parents are engaged in their child's education, and students are matched with an environment, a learning environment that best suits them. So, for example, in Florida, you can have $8,000 school voucher to take your child and put them in any learning environment, be that charter school, private school, even homeschool. Unfortunately, in the state of Georgia, we don't have that. We have the Promise Scholarship Act that was passed last year. It was a good first step, but still a lot left to be desired. So in this Promise Scholarship Act, those whose children attend the bottom 75 percentile academic schools are eligible, and they can only use those monies to go to a private school. So not any learning environment, just a private school. And if you're currently homeschooling your child, or your child's in private school, you're not eligible for those monies. So there's a lot of regulations, rules, and red tape associated with our Promise Scholarship Act, and I would like to expand it to something very similar to Florida. So that's initiative number one. The second initiative that I believe will advance everybody, right, even those of diverse backgrounds, is that of trade schools. I believe that we should have every graduate, right, have graduated not just with a high school diploma, but with a trade school certification. And that's everyone, regardless of whether or not they're college bound or not. If they're college bound, you can look at it as a built-in internship. But if you're not college bound, it's going to be a game changer. It's going to allow you to have a career, not just a job out of high school. And it could be the difference between you putting food on your table and paying your bills, having a certification that gives you a career into a very good paying job. Most certifications, you can start off easily, 5 figures, but move on to 6 figures after a lot of, some experience.
Have you ever heard of Larry Sharp? He's running for governor up in New York.
Okay.
And with his idea is with the school system, there's only the student goes up to the 10th grade. He says after the 10th grade, it's pretty much a wasted classes. And so the 11th and 12th grade years would be either used for, as you said, trade school. So you come out with a trade, or you could start going on and taking college classes. So you're already moving forward. Have you ever looked at something like that?
That is really what would work the best. And here in the state of Georgia, we already have dual enrollment credits that are granted to any child that wants to take college level courses. So all I'm saying is allocate those funds to the certification, to trade school certification. So rather than just taking random college courses, you're taking something towards an actual certification so that you're prepared upon graduation. So yes, you start in the 10th grade, or if your certification is going to take longer, you can start in the 9th grade. But definitely have it where students are graduating with something tangible for a career other than just a high school diploma.
Right. What is your stance on curriculum standards in Georgia, particularly regarding reading, math, and science instruction? Do y'all have like up here in Virginia, we now have SOLs.
Okay.
Do y'all have that, I assume, down there too?
Are you talking about for students that are learning a different language, a new language?
No. SOLs would be like there's these, you know how it is. Government's running the thing, and they're going, all right, every student's identical, so we're going to just rubber stamp them up. We do have curriculum standards. It's not
SOL. However, do you know the Mississippi Miracle, right? They went from the bottom of the rung all the way to the top 10 nationally in their education rankings. And they did that by going back to basics. So I am a strong proponent of phonics for reading, right? Mm-hmm. All these fad reading standards are really just fads, and they did a huge disservice to our students. And definitely going back to the basics when it comes to arithmetic as well. When you have students bringing in their math homework and the parents can't help them because the math is the new math, you have a problem. So we need to just go back to basics when it comes to reading and arithmetic, because you know that by 3rd grade, prisons are built based on whether or not students are literate, right? And so this is a crucial time. We need to make sure that we are prioritizing literacy at the earliest levels. I believe that if a child is not able to read by 2nd grade, we should hold them back and put extra resources into that child to make sure that they are reading, so that they're not being caught up going the 3rd and 4th and on and not being able to do word problems in their history and science, because it all hinges on their reading ability.
Right. One of the big things now that I didn't have to deal with, and probably yourself, but we're both addicted to technology. So these kids are coming in with getting focused on, they're just, they're glued to the phone if it's videos, games, and our attention spans went sideways. I mean,
It
even my
definitely.
attention span. And then also it affects the emotion too, because you're looking at Instagram and I'm looking at all the cool places you are. I'm not watching you pay the bills and be, put yourself in debt. What would you do about that? Would you get say in that? Because like in Virginia, I think they just passed a bill like kids under 16 can't be on social media or can only be on there for an hour a day or something like that.
I think
What
all
was
those
your
bills,
stance on there?
yes, any bill that limits screen time and definitely social media time is a good bill. I mean, it's telling that top tech CEOs limit their children's access to social media. They know just how addictive their social media algorithms are. So we definitely need to limit the social media access to our children, but even more so, just the overall screen time. We do have a bill here in the state of Georgia that's going to be presented to make sure that cell phones are banned during the school day altogether. And so we need to be much more proactive in helping our children stay off of these devices, especially when their focus should be on their schoolwork.
Right. See, and it's always like a double-edged sword for myself. It's like, as I think about it, it's like you don't want to take. Bernie Sanders made this comment about getting rid of the data centers, and like, let's put a moratorium on them. I understand a whole bunch, like the power usage, the water usage, and then the taxpayers get to do it. But if we put a moratorium on it, we get left behind, and everyone else is moving ahead. And that's always what I like when I hit. Like the balancing act of keeping kids in technology and like getting them out into hey, let's have an actual discussion. What Brian on the internet says and Brian in real life says is two different things a lot of times. Many people are like that.
Right. So, but we're saying limit. We're not saying take it away altogether. But definitely you want to limit the amount of screen time, and definitely access to social media for children that are really not capable of dealing with all of the comparisons and bullying and all that comes along with that.
All right, so let's see, we're just a few years out of the pandemic.
Correct.
I seen the effect on my little group here, the affiliate, the Roanoke Valley Libertarians, or the veteran organizations that I go to. People don't come out to meetings. It seems like they're still holding back since they got. Okay. Would you support, or what are some recovery programs? Are y'all still feeling the effect? I would imagine you are. Or am I wrong about that?
Of COVID, I think for what I'm concerned the most about COVID as it pertains to education, it's just all the mental health issues that happened as a result. So for starters, students didn't do well in isolation. Okay, right. So anxiety levels went up, depression levels went up. We know statistically that suicide rates, as well as alcoholism and drug abuse, all went up as a result of COVID. And so we're still dealing, unfortunately, with the aftermath of all those mental health issues. As far as academically is concerned, many kids lost a year of schooling, so we have to do catch up. Now, many were able to catch up. Thankfully, here in the state of Georgia, we didn't have the years and years of isolation that you guys had in the north. But we did have still a lot of children with some learning gaps because of having to stay home. And so there's still some residual of that. In addition, the absenteeism, right? So prior to COVID, we did a much better job cracking down on absenteeism of students because of COVID and so many students deciding or choosing to work from home and do schooling from home. Absenteeism has gone up and it's really affecting students' learning results, right? And so we need to beef that back up as far as cracking down on it and ensuring that students are in fact going to school and getting those learning days that they need in order to get all of their learning to take place.
Would you, what are you going to do if you got elected? When is your election? Are you just seeking the nomination right now, or are you actually the nominee?
So the primary is in May, and there's 5 of us on the Republican side. And then the actual election, should I be the Republican nominee, will go towards November. And there are some challengers on the Democratic side as well.
Okay. And with that, how long is the position held for? Because you said that the current person, 4 years, and the person in there now is 11 years, right?
Correct. 11 going on 12. So he'll be done with his 12 year by November. Correct.
Is there no term limits for you? Could be as long as I keep winning, I can stay in position?
Pretty much. He didn't really have a challenger the last couple of times, but this time I think we're all fed up because of the way that things are just going. It's just it's unfortunate that we're falling further and further behind.
Okay. What would you do to ensure the curriculum focuses on academics and not on political things? Because now we are so focused on, even now in Virginia, the Democrats took control of everything. And I think this first bill is, the guy wants to say, well, if you teach about January 6th, you got to say it's an insurrection. It's got to be everything bad. We can't question was there inside jobs? Was there anything like that any type of other aspects about it we can't talk about? We only can talk about being all bad. How are you going to make sure that you're not going to have the politics brought in?
Well, politics are brought in, but here's the thing. You have to make sure that you're empowering the parents, right? Parents need to be empowered to attend these meetings. They need to be empowered for their voice to be heard and for decisions to not go over their heads. They need to be empowered to make sure that their children are learning according to their ideals. And so that's why at the school board level, it's very important to have parent participation. I know that is not necessarily the most popular thing because parents can be very outspoken, but guess what? It's their children, right? And they are the taxpayers. I mean, we're all the taxpayers. I mean, the state of Georgia, over 50% of our budget is taken up by education, right? And over 50% of that budget goes to administration. So it's imperative that we empower parents, that we give them the tools necessary to be able to say enough is enough. This is not what we want for our children to be taught.
So you push for school choice.
Correct.
Is it very popular in Georgia? Because there's a lot of times I just saw a thing on the news. It said that I believe 49% of Americans say that they're an independent voter, and two major parties are slipping down in favorability. But when November rolls around and the rubber meets the road, they will not vote for the independent or third party. They will still give their vote, or they stay home. More people stay home. Right. Is there a lot of people happy? Are they backing school choice, or what type of vibe do you get?
So obviously, I would say on the Republican side, there is a lot of support for school choice. And then you have the exact opposite on the Democrat side. And here's the thing. I do believe that many people, many voters are in fact independent minded. They don't 100% support one side or the other. The reason why we don't have strong third parties in our country has more to do with the way that the parties were structured in the first place, right? And so it gives them so much more power at the local level all the way up to the national levels. So we believe it needs to be election reform. There needs to be election reform to really give third parties much more say. I think if we had strong third parties, I would probably be a third party nominee, because there's so many of my ideals that are just not 100% one or the other. And I think that's true of many candidates. But because it's such a bilateral system that we have in the U.S., we need to have that change. It has to be changed all the way on all rungs of politics, at the national, state, and local level.
I totally agree with you. I would love to see term limits get
definitely
put in place. That'd be number one. But ballot access across the board is just because all laws, as I talked about Larry Sharp, he got enough votes to make the Libertarian Party a major party, so they wouldn't have to collect signatures in 2018. He ran for governor, and once he got it, he hit the threshold. They rushed into session, and Pat said, no, we're moving the goalpost. We're going to move it down here. So they said, you're not really a major party you don't have major party access right now,
Oh,
so that's the type of thing that you deal with. And like, we might have good individuals that, like you said, want to run with the Libertarians, but they can't because money, media, I get it, but it always is heartbreaking to me because you see good people going, come home. And it's like, they can't come home because, I get the uphill battle.
I'm a strong proponent of term limits. I think that will solve a lot of the ills that we have.
I know.
All
and
levels.
People are only in for term limits when they're not in power. When they get into power, we don't need term limits. You can vote us in or vote us out if you want.
Well, I'm making a huge announcement here, Brian. If I am elected superintendent of schools, I serve 2 terms. That's it. I believe that is a good barometer for whether or not you're successful. You don't need to stay 3, 4, or 5 terms. If you can't make changes in the first 2 terms, you need to move on. And so my goal is to be able to serve 2 terms and make a difference in the state of Georgia.
That sounds good right there. So going on with here in Virginia back in 2021, when we had all the Republicans took over, it was pretty much because parents felt like they were being removed from the decision making and in the process of how the students are taught. So the question would be is how should parents be involved in decision making about their children's education, including curriculum, books, and health related topics? And I guess that might be transgender or some LGBTQ and all that good stuff.
Got it. So I think it's imperative that parents are empowered to make decisions for their children at the school, right? As well as at the school boards, and definitely when it comes to policy that we're passing at the legislature. We need to make sure that they are a major stakeholder and that their voices are equally weighed with that of lobbyists and that of you name it, other stakeholders, teachers unions, you name it. So we need to empower them, and we need to ensure that when they make their voices heard, that their decisions are found or find their way within the legislation. And so I really believe that school choice is the first step in that, because right now you have no choice, right? If you have issues with the public school that you have in your neighborhood, your options are very limited as to what you can do without spending a lot of money. Obviously, if you have the means, you can take your child to a private school or you can homeschool them. But for those that don't have those means, then they're stuck, and that is unfortunate. We need to give them true ability, financial tools, as well as the resources needed to make those decisions for their children.
Okay. And now, what steps are you going to take to recruit high quality teachers, especially for rural areas, underserved areas, and things like that? What are some steps that you'll do to bring them in?
So 3 things. Number 1, we need to make sure that their pay is equitable with those nationwide, right? Because fortunate that when teachers are thinking about moving to the South, that they're taking huge pay cuts, right? If they're moving from the North or Midwest, they're taking huge pay cuts when they come to the South. Now, I will give kudos to our governor. He has definitely improved on that and increased salaries, but still, I think there's a little bit of a look on that. Secondly, we need to make sure that we are empowering our teachers to be the teachers that they want to be, not give them mountains of paperwork or having them take their February through April time away from teaching to teach students how to pass a test. None of those are reasons why teachers went into the profession, right? They went into profession because they cared about children and they wanted to teach. So if you're not giving them the ability to do that, if you're not giving them the flexibility and allow them to be the creative geniuses that they are in the classroom, you're taking a huge incentive away from them, right? And then the third is we need to address behaviors. Children of today are not the same as children 10, 20, 30 years ago, all right? And one of the main things that we do to address behaviors is teaching them character development, and that needs to start at the early ages, in the early stages in elementary. We can't just assume that they're being taught that at home. One of the programs that I'm a huge supporter of is called LifeWise. It's a national program, and they have proven results, Brian, that every school that they are involved in, students' anxiety levels decrease, depression levels decrease, and overall behaviors improve. And so it's a like I said, it's a national program. It's private, but they come in and they partner with the schools. And as long as the parents sign waivers saying that it's okay for my child to attend, they take the child to an off-site location and teach them biblically based character development. Here's the thing. It's very difficult for them to enter into some school systems. As a superintendent of schools, I will empower them, and I will ask all of my superintendents to give them a green light. It's free to the school, and it has proven results. It's a no-brainer.
Right. How long have they been doing that type of stuff? Did you say?
LifeWise has been around for several years. I can't give you the exact dates, but I do know that they have statistics. If you go to their website, LifeWise, they have statistics where they have proven the school systems that they are involved in have lower levels of anxiety, depression, and improved overall behaviors, which is what we want. Our teachers need to be able to teach, right? Students are disrupted. Make that difficult to do.
Okay. Real quick, your microphone is somewhat breaking up a little bit. Are you seeing that on your end?
I'm not, no.
Okay, yeah, because you'll be talking and then you'll be like, it goes away and I'll see your mouth moving and then you'll like rushes. It seems like it's rushing me or like it's speeding up trying to catch up with your mouth. Okay, here we go. Next question. This is going to talk about funding, safety, and other key issues here. We've got a couple questions about what are the biggest challenges facing Georgia public schools today and how would you address them as superintendent?
So one of the main things that I like to do is have leadership in the area of our budgetary system. As I mentioned earlier, over 50% of our budget, the school system's budget, is taken up for administration. I think that's a bloated amount. If we looked at most nonprofits, right? The real good nonprofits that everybody raves about have anywhere between a 10 to 20% for administration. So 50% for administration is a bloated amount. So we need to look at that. Secondly, I just want to change the budgetary system altogether. We have a QBE budgetary system, which is archaic and complicated. And because it's complicated, it lends itself to fraud. And we've had several issues around the state where you've had fraud at the top level with the superintendent that they've had to resign on investigation, all that. So definitely look at our budgetary system and look at doing some audits to ensure transparency throughout the entire state and making sure that the money is following the students, not the institution. That is how we obtain true school choice in our state.
Right. I know here in the state down, and there's a county, Franklin County, and they got a budget shortfall of like $1.7 million. Now, the taxpayer's going to have to figure out where that comes from, what services either we're going to give up or what are we going to start paying more on. And you're not going, it's like anything, it's hard to take away something. Once you start doing it, it's hard to take that service away. How would you approach school funding, including with the role of state versus local contributions with potential federal grants?
Right. I'm a huge supporter of federal block grants. I believe that, so you're familiar with the DOE, right? The DOE, over 60% of its budget goes towards colleges in the form of Pell Grants, right? And back in the day when the DOE was started in the 1980s, Pell Grants covered 70% of someone's education. Now it barely scratches the surface, leading many students to have to take out loans. Okay, that's on the that's one of the main things that there's a misconception that the DOE is all for K-12. It's not. Now, of the remaining dollars, right, 25% of that goes to schools, right, goes to the states. But then the federal government keeps 15% in the form of, special ed type of funding. And because of that, I believe many states have increased the number of special ed students, our students on the special ed, because of being able to access those funds, right? But then it's kind of like which is worse, because now that, like you said, once you start getting a service, it's really difficult to take someone on. I believe that this explosion of children on special ed is because it's a funding mechanism, and also because it allows students or allows schools not to count these students, right? If they're special ed students, they don't count towards their test scores, don't count towards the overall test score, leading a lot of schools to design them or designate them as special ed because it saves them from having those bad school, those bad exam results on their school records. Now, that's one area that I'm grateful for the block grants, because the block grants hopefully will not have all those red tape, right? All those strings attached. And therefore it will give the states a lot more freedom in how they're allocating those funds. And yes, we're going to probably have to have a complete do-over in how we go about addressing special ed needs, etc. I believe that a lot of it can be solved just by offering different type of learning environments. Not every child can sit at a desk for 6 hours at a time, right? We have to have different learning environments, one of which could be Montessori public schools. That's one of my initiatives, is to be able to have different options for parents to choose from. They shouldn't have to send their child that might be a little ADHD or a little hyperactive to a school where they're forced to sit for 6 hours at a time, and now you have a behavior problem, right? So you need to be able to have different types of learning environments for these children, and then you won't have to have them labeled as a special needs child.
Right. Okay. Now, what about with the Trump administration getting rid of the DOE? Do you support that? Do you think that should go back to the states or all that good stuff, or what?
I do support that, and that's what I was saying. That as far as those funds will not be filtered through the DOE with all of its regulations and red tape anymore. It will be sent directly to the states in the form of block grants.
All right. What measures would you support to improve school safety, including mental health resources, security, and bullying prevention? Right. Back in my day, anyone could walk in, and when my niece was in school, it was like you would have to be buzzed. You go to one door, be buzzed in, go to another door, buzzed in, and there was so much prevention here. And it's weird to me. It almost feels like and then there was like and I don't know if this is true or not, but the ceiling felt lower. So it almost felt like I was cattle because we went and watched a graduation thing. And
Okay.
I felt like it was almost like I was being cattled in. And I don't know, they always talk about it. We were just talking, and, during this discussion, it seems like they're just, you're bringing the kid in and you're just teaching them how to work and be into that. I don't want to call it a jail mentality, but it seems like we're very regiment oriented, and it was weird to me, So what are some of the things that you would do about security, bullying? Because I think I got bullied. I had people say things to me, and on one hand, it's like, yeah, you should do it now because they don't really mean anything. But kids go home and they're on social media and they're getting bullied there, so they don't get to leave it at school or whatever. What are some of the things that you've thought about for security and all that?
Brian, we live in different times, right? We live in a world where children, unfortunately, have to have, active shooter drills, right? We didn't have to do that when we were kids. And so that's very real concern to not just school officials, principals and superintendents, but also teachers and parents, right? Because we're seeing these shootings constantly on TV. I think there's not a year that goes by when we don't have a shooting taking place at some learning institution. And so, unfortunately, we have to take measures. Yes, it might feel a little bit like a prison, going into prison, but we can definitely make it where the children don't feel that way once they're in the building, right? But yes, we have to take measures to keep the bad people out. That's just the reality of the world that we're living in. For security things that we can do is be more proactive. So we can be more proactive with what's taking place on social media. As you mentioned, bullying takes place, but not just bullying, but very trigger words that people, law enforcement needs to be aware of, school officials need to be aware of. If these things are being said, then everybody needs to be involved in addressing that issue as soon as it happens, right? We're not going to say, oh, well, he seemed like a nice kid or she seemed fine, when they were giving us warning signs already. And so we need to be much more proactive. All of us need to be much more proactive in keeping those things to a minimum. When children are experiencing anxiety and depression and even bullying, we need to address that. These are mental health issues. No, it's not okay to have bullying, and it's not okay if it's happening in the school systems. Okay, those are yes, it's behavior that's been around at the beginning of time, but it does not lead to a good learning environment for those that are experiencing the bullying. And it does speak to, fortunately, possible abuse for those that are the bullier, the person that's perpetrating bullying. It speaks to problems at home. And so we need to just wrap around these children and make sure that we are addressing these issues at an early stage and not waiting until they become problems.
Right. What is your vision for preparing Georgia students for success in college, careers, and life after high school?
So my number one initiative, as I mentioned earlier, is the trade school initiative. I believe that it will help even those that are college now. And here's why. If you say you want to be a lawyer and you get a paralegal certificate, not only is that preparing you for the job of being a lawyer, but it gives you an opportunity to have firsthand experience before you get your degree, possibly saving you thousands of dollars if you decide that industry is not for you after all. But if you do this, it gives you experience, it allows you to put that on your resume, and it allows you to get a good paying job as soon as you come out. Same with all the other professions. Anyone that going into a healthcare field can get easily all these certifications that are available in the healthcare field. Same with tech, right? There's coding certifications, Google certifications that you can get, and that I will promote, because it's not all, trade schools aren't just for your blue collar jobs. We're talking about other types of fields that have a myriad amount of trade certifications available so they can match very, very easily what someone's going to go off to college for. Now, for those that are not college bound, it's essential. We cannot leave it for them once they leave school. I mean, I'm in agreement with the governor that you mentioned. 10th, after 10th grade, all of their learning is just about finished, right? So you have that perfect time that they're in school, K through 12. You have a captive audience. Let's utilize their time wisely, right? Time is a resource. Let's utilize their time wisely. We already have that in school. Most of them are already taking dual enrollment or AP courses. Let's channel that into taking certifications for trades or so that's the first thing. Here in the state of Georgia, we have the Hope Scholarship. Okay. And the Hope Scholarship allows many students to attend college with their tuition paid for, or most of their tuition paid for, depending on which Hope Scholarship you're getting. I would like to convert that Hope Scholarship to something similar to an academic, an athletic scholarship. So if you're getting an athletic scholarship, you know that the GPA requirement to keep that scholarship is pretty low. The threshold is pretty low, allowing students the freedom to, when you first go out to college, it's a box, right? They're not just, of course, they're dealing with the newfound freedom. They're dealing with friends from different backgrounds. They're dealing with a myriad of things other than just study. And so we need to give it a little bit of a breather. And so I would like our Hope Scholarship to be similar to an athletic scholarship where the GPA requirement is much lower than so yes, you can still keep it high or getting it, but keeping it, we need to change that because so many students, right, have this false sense that once they get the Hope, they're going to have that the entire 4 years, and that is just not the case. Many of them lose it within their first or second semester, which is false advertisement, in my opinion. And so if you're asking the poorest of the poor to supply them with this scholarship, you need to also empower them to keep that scholarship for the duration of the 4 years. So that's one thing. And then I would have a like a star system and letting people know these are the colleges that will best allow you to keep that that scholarship. Right? There's some colleges that are, within the first year, they want to, students to fail. And so we want to make sure that parents and students alike know which colleges are not conducive to keeping your Hope Scholarship. I mean, we have to all the ones that are paying that in. So.
All right. Well, everything you talked about sounded very good. Like I said, I want to bring you back on later because I don't want it to get it mixed. If you're willing to come back, because I want you to talk about your concretebuild.org. I thought that was fascinating. I really enjoyed your podcast because you said the last one I think it was the last one you did. You said it was 12 minutes, and you said we like to keep it short and sweet. And I think that's such a great idea because so many times podcasts go for hours on end and you only have so much time. But what you're doing there is very interesting to me. And I want to bring you back, but I want to wish you good luck in getting your thing done. Okay. So we've hit the 45-minute mark. I think we're going to go on and punch out. So, but thank you so much. Like I said, it sounded very good and I look forward to it. If you're interested in helping support, go to the link right there. It's drnelvalee.com, and you can read more about her platform. And hey, once again, I wish you best of luck. And if you win, hopefully you win. Good luck getting things through. And if not, you're always welcome home to the Libertarian Party. You know what I'm saying? So until next time, I'm Brian. That's Dr. Nelva Lee. And we will see you later. Good night.
Thanks.
Good day.
For having me.
Thank you for listening to the Maximum Libertarian Podcast. Visit MaximumLibertarian.com to help me grow this podcast. So until next time, my friends, stay centered.